Chief Delp, if you would,
Nope,
at the
there
very
we
least,
go.
get it recorded to the cloud, make sure it's
It
going
just
to the.
it just popped up.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make sure it's recording to the cloud and not his local device, because we've
Yep,
had that
it's on the
issue
cloud.
before. All right. Well, then we are here. This is a council work session on today, May 3rd, with myself, Council President Wolf, council persons Bruger, McNamara, and Shrimp in attendance, as well as Police Chief Delp and the mysterious Mac, who we believe is Barb. And we are here to discuss the plans that we saw last Monday regarding the proposed architect work for the work that was proposed by the architect for the new community building updates. Now, with that whole mouthful, this session was planned largely because Councilperson Benedetti had indicated they had concerns. And Barb has confirmed in the chat that yes, Mac is Barb. So now we know for certain. Yeah. So does anybody else, I mean, I think I can start to ask the questions that Councilperson Benedetti had, but I know that if I do that when he joins, we would just need to circle back around it. So does anybody else have thoughts on how to start this productively?
I don't. I think that we were having the chief on here because Tony, maybe there's other people who question the space allocation for the police department. If so, then maybe they could ask their question. But the main reason the chief's on is for, I thought, Tony's initiative, is I've heard the chief, personally, I've heard the chief speak on the rooms and the needs and et cetera. So I'm satisfied myself. So is anybody else feeling they had their own individual questions for the chief?
I
just had one. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian, did you?
No, I was just saying that you had your hand up, so I was going to bring it to you.
Well, thank you, sir. I just had just one real brief question. I know there was some debate over the presence of a family bathroom being turned into the reports room. I totally understand the need for a reports room. I just was wondering if there was any conceivable way that there could be any room in the police section where that could go and the family restroom could be reintegrated. Would there be sufficient space from evidence or storage or something along those lines, in your opinion?
The purpose of that reports room is to keep the public out of the building, so that when someone comes in to file a report or talk to an officer has a place where they can speak in private without going through the admin section or walking them all the way back to the police department.
Okay.
There's no lobby in the police department. Obviously, under a situation where we brought them to the police department, we would take them into the police department. But if someone just walks in the front door, it's just nice to have a place. And let's say, for example, they come in, but they live in Columbus, and we have a Columbus officer come speak with them. They now have a place to go and speak to the Columbus officer. So that's the whole purpose of it. I get it. It'd be nice if we had a little more room there to put in a family bathroom, or we turn both bathrooms into family bathrooms.
Right.
That I
So-
would not be opposed to.
Yeah, we can circle back on bathroom situation. Let's get let's use Chief's time as efficiently as we can. And to that end, Chief, I assume you have the same diagram that we saw last Monday from the architect. So I think maybe for posterity and for the record, posterity, pardon me, and the record, can you just speak through the needs that are represented there?
I actually don't have that drawing. I have the one that was before that. that I marked up, but I will say that like in an earlier iteration of this drawing, um, the processing area was at the front of the building up there. And I believe Councilperson Shrimp brought up the idea of the restroom and the processing area. And that is, she's absolutely right. That is something we need, and there's no plumbing down at that end of the building. So, I mean, when I received this, I was told it was a concept, and like all these little um, changes and corrections and stuff would come when we actually went to an architectural drawing. But I wasn't real concerned with the way it was set up, just that there was, oh, perfect.
Yeah,
That there
I
was,
sent you a copy too, sir.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
did someone share the screen? I was trying to get mine up to share the screen, but somebody
Yes, that was me
somebody
too.
was faster than me. Thank you, Eric.
So yeah, so as you can see, there's like the door to the processing area, and then the evidence room is right next to that, which is kind of what we needed. I think the earlier design had where the chief's office is, there was actually the entrance there, that was the processing, and then the lieutenant was the lieutenant's office was the evidence room. With this concept, other than the restroom issue, the whole idea was to have the supervisor be able to look out onto where the officers are working and stuff. But and like I said, it's all conceptual. There's definitely some things that, like in the earlier things in the evidence room, they had a window, and obviously we can't have a window in an evidence room. So yes, it was definitely one of those things that needed to be changed. And they also had a window in the processing area, which that wouldn't help either. So those windows were taken out. There is a straight line into that storage room, which is nice. But yeah, like I said,
Sure. So
the workflow here, you've got the workstations out there for the officers. You got all the file cabinet storage, that work area, and then of course the locker rooms there for the officers to store their gear and stuff when they're not at work. So.
Sure. So while it is true that this is still conceptual, not final schematics or actual architectural elevations, that kind of stuff, the concept is usually what a project builds to, right? This will be the idea that starts the rest of the process. So it is unfortunate that Councilperson Benedetti isn't here to ask his own questions, but again, in an effort to be fair, to make certain that the questions are asked and answers are given. The three things that I recall that he was questioning, one was sort of from a square footage perspective, right? He was looking at this drawing that we have up on the screen right now and asking, is it really necessary for our police department to have 3 police workstations and a lieutenant's office and a chief's office? Is that the right amount? Is that more than you need? Is that less than you need?
I think it's probably the right amount for the size of this department. We spoke earlier about the, if I can move this, I'd really like to move you guys here and put this other screen.
Yeah.
Here we go. There we go. Now I can look at you. I couldn't see it before because of this shared screen. So the sorry, I lost my train of thought moving that stuff around. What was the question
about the size of the space.
Square footage and now we may want to tap dance for 1 minute because Barb just put in the chat that per Mayor Hughes, Councilperson Benedetti will be on in a minute. So if we want to I don't know, play the intermission song for 60 seconds to see if he really arrives. That might
Nope,
keep
there he
us
is.
from having to say the same thing twice. While we're doing that, here he is now. Okay. Excellent. Welcome, Tony or Councilperson Benedetti. We were just really getting into our conversation with Chief Delp. I was doing my best to represent the questions that you had, starting with what I had heard you expressing was a concern with the square footage and number and type of workspaces that were laid out in this design for the police. Is that a fair summary of one of your questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we could let Chief Delp then speak to that.
So the way that this is set up right now, the workspace, one of those would be dedicated to the sergeant, and then the other ones would be for day officers. So whatever officers are on duty. And I don't anticipate growth in the department. If we get a SRO for the new school, for the middle school, we'll have one more officer. But the majority of that officer will be paid by Westerville Schools. So, and we've talked about that in the past, but for 9 full-time officers, 1 part-time officer, or 10 full-time officers, this seems to be a good arrangement.
And to address a specific concern, a full office for the lieutenant. Is that, again, I'm trying to represent Tony's questions, but he's here now.
I guess I'm just trying to understand what duties does a lieutenant have that requires him to need an office?
So the lieutenant is the second in command for the police department. As such, he is like kind of like the vice principal of a school. He deals with disciplined officers and working with officers, coaching them, but he needs a private space to engage in those things. Additionally, he does a lot of administrative work that would require him to have workspace where he can leave things out. If he needs to leave the office and things are out in the open, he needs a way to secure that stuff and not have it be subject to prying eyes. But additionally, and I think more importantly, is that I think it's important to have professional workspace because it tends to generate professional people. And if you have this nicer workspace, it's going to promote that professionalism in the officers. So
I guess the revelation for me here is that it requires 2 administrators to run, and that being a chief and a lieutenant. So the lieutenant doesn't do any patrolling. Dorn doesn't do any patrolling. He's solely working on administrative training, whatever it is. I mean, that's the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around, is why we need 2.
actually, sir, we all patrol.
Okay.
I mean, we all have to patrol. There's not enough officers here for anybody to just sit on station doing admin work.
Okay.
Right. But the answer that Chief had already given was that should the lieutenant, or when the lieutenant needs to do that admin work, it is of the nature that if he needs to leave in a hurry, he needs to be able to secure it.
Well, okay.
Which is why there's why it needs a door that can lock, along with any human resources type conversation with subordinate officers.
Well, again, like I said, the revelation for me is that it takes 2 people to run the department. That's what.
I think that our own history with our department has shown that it's good to have depth in the bench because at least in my time here in the village, Chief Delp is not our first or only police chief, and he was the depth of our bench, and I'm glad to have had him. But I would also say that what you're talking about there is more the nature of the operation of our police force And today, to be efficient in our conversation, we should really keep this conversation about the needs of the police force as it is today, and how that relates to the building as proposed.
Well, that's, yes, and I'll do my best to stay on that
And-
contract with that.
And I will do my best to rein you in whenever necessary.
No, you will.
So the next question, again, Tony, I'm just trying to keep things moving and keep Chief's time efficient. So I had counted 3 concerns, or actually now I'm just thinking 2 concerns that you'd had with the police space. The other was the presence of 2 showers, a men's shower and a women's shower. And so Chief Delp, I know that we don't have women on our force at this time, but I'm sure that that is something that we would surely change in the future. But the question is, do you see that as 2 showers as necessary?
I'm kind of ambivalent about the showers. I think the showers are one of those things. When we were told to come up with our things, it was wants, needs, and wishes.
Mhm.
And I think the showers were somewhere between needs and wishes. Can we do without showers? Sure. Would showers be nice to have? Yes, because there are times when they're necessary. I don't know if there's a way to make a co-ed shower. I don't know if that would be appropriate or possible. Certainly don't want people, walking through the department in a towel to get to the shower.
No, that's not what I would propose, but could I ask, how many officers come in and change their clothes?
All of them.
All of them come in street clothes and change their clothes.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is where, I don't want to get into the specifics of, how we go about doing this, but, or, reducing the, my thoughts are, having a group, having a family shower or family restroom that has, showers in the changing room in it. It's,
Well,
again, that's where I just want to understand, because, or even that, I don't understand why they don't, I was in the Air Force, I had to put on a uniform every day, and I didn't go to the shop and put my uniform on. I came to work with my uniform on. And I know that, maybe officers don't want to leave their house in the uniform because they don't want anybody to know they're a police officer. I don't know what the thinking is behind not coming to work dressed is, but, okay, I mean, that's the question I have. One other question is, how many people are changing their clothes here?
well, that sounds like that's 100% is what we just got.
You do it?
Yeah, there's nobody's coming in uniform. I think they're coming in about a half uniform. Like they might have their uniform pants and boots, but then their shirt and everything else would be
Vest and-
here, external vest. They keep their gear in lockers. So they come in, they get their gear, so they can put their gear on.
So locker room facilities definitely sounds to be a requirement.
Yeah,
And-
that one's a need.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for expressing that you feel like the showers live between need and want, but then in your answer you also said that sometimes you need it, right? So even if it's not a need every
As I
day,
said, it's one of those things where if they had it, they would use it.
Mhm.
If they didn't have it, maybe they wouldn't. One of the things that was talked about was if space is available to incorporate some kind of exercise facility here, and some officers would come in, work out, shower, get dressed, and go to work. So that was kind of the thinking behind the showers.
well, so and I'd ask a follow-up question because it was just to again bring it into the record because it was part of the conversations we've had regarding showers in the past. And under current procedures, if in the course of their duties, one of our officers were exposed to what I would describe as biohazard, right? Any bodily fluid that isn't theirs, or, materials, materials that are not known to be safe on their person, what's the procedure today?
Well, at that point, it's pretty much a garden hose.
The moment.
And it's like, yeah, and just, you gotta
And
hose
so-
off as best you can.
So I might suggest that there's a little more dignity to a shower than a garden hose, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But we have had situations, in 2018, we went into a home where there was a deceased person, actually two deceased people, and they'd been in there for quite a while. And the ability to come back and maybe take a shower and put your clothes in a bag would have been very nice, very nice at that time. So there are times when it's actually a need. Like I said, if they had it, they would probably use it. But as I said, it's one of those things where if a shower is the thing that's holding up the building of a building, I can do without it.
Yeah, I don't know that we're there at this moment, but we can.
No, and I definitely think, there's some wiggle room to say bathrooms are expensive. We'll do one shower room with a door that can be closed, and then, if you hear the running water, just like at home, you don't run in to take a shower because someone's in there, and people just wait turns.
I'd be curious to see if that actually saved us any money. But okay, Diane, it looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, no, well, you saw my email, and so I was just, I just think that having a utility room that includes a shower and a slop sink and a toilet that could be used by someone who's in processing, or by the police, or by the dog, just to shower them off, just a room that could be completely sanitized easily, tiled and all that. I think it would serve a lot of purposes. And if, as you say, there's no plumbing at the end with the processing, but I just wanted to get your opinion. I don't see any problem with flipping, like say, put the shower where the police chief is and move the police chief down at the other end. For example, I would think that to get it closer to where the rest of the plumbing, where they prefer to do it, would be acceptable. Would it be?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. One of the earlier drawings had the processing room at that end, and the chief's office down in the bottom right corner, and the lieutenant's office next to that. And if we're going to put and I do agree that there should be a restroom attached to the processing area, and that would be up there where the plumbing, closer to the plumbing. So that's something that needs to be definitely discussed with the architects when we get to the planning stage.
And since it's all a new addition, I would think the outside door could easily be moved up to where the processing.
Yeah, that's where it was before.
Okay,
It was,
all right.
yeah, I don't know what prompted the move to put it down at the other end and do that. I don't know. I just looked at the drawings.
Okay.
Can I ask Chief, what is the processing room for?
That's to bring arrestees into.
Well, this is another one that I need to understand. We don't have a holding cell. When you arrest somebody, isn't the process to get them down to Franklin County as quick as possible?
Well, it depends. If we arrest somebody for, let's say, OBI, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done. We take them to another agency for the test, usually Blendon or Westerville. But then we bring them back here and we have someone come pick them up. I mean, we don't have to take anyone to jail and just put them behind bars if they've just had too much to drink. We'll call them a sober ride to come pick them up and take them home. But there is paperwork that needs to be done, and that takes a while. So we bring them back here. If we arrest someone and we have to take them to jail, we bring them back here. We prepare the charges. We do the arrest sheet. and get everything ready to go before going down to the jail. So we're not sitting in the jail with everyone else, working on paperwork.
Well, I've been through the process, chief, and it's wasn't done exactly like that. When I was arrested for DUI. Yeah, all right, thanks.
So in other words, to paraphrase, to repeat back so that I make sure I understood what you said, that processing room would be used when we have arrested an individual, right? And if we've arrested them without the intention of taking them to jail or down to county, they would stay there while paperwork is done and they have a sober ride, what have you. Or if they are going down to county, they would be there while we prepare the paperwork so that we are on site and in our village for through the preponderance of time, right? That we want them here while they do their paperwork, and then they can go down to county and have a much more efficient handoff with all the work having been done already.
That is spot on correct. And you've seen
Okay.
you've seen our processing area here at the current station, which is a bench with a couple of eye bolts to it. I mean, we do that here now.
Yeah.
But they're setting it out in that office area, and it's not secure from the rest of the building, and it's could be problematic if somebody decided that they didn't want to be cooperative.
Right.
You get handcuffed to it. You got much choice but to be cooperative.
Well, I can imagine a lot of ways to be uncooperative while handcuffed. So anyways, moving on, Councilperson Benedetti, were there any specific areas within the police use portion of the building that you had questions on?
That is all with regards to the police chief's input.
Okay, then to sum up what I heard, and I think that there was a general consensus on, is that we could potentially do without the showers, with the idea that there would be an addition of a utility room with a shower, so that it could be used to shower more than just people. It would be more of an emergency shower / utility space and regular restroom for people who are maybe in processing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to shower in the processing area, but there definitely should be a restroom for
Okay.
those occasions when we do have to take a urine sample from someone. That
Yeah.
has to be done in a secure
In a
area.
in a secure area with a toilet.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, and thank you to Councilperson Shrimp for pointing that out, because she's spot on correct that we need to have that.
Okay, I like it. Then at this time, does anybody else have additional questions or require additional input from Chief Delp?
Yeah, I will get my turn here.
Yeah.
So, Chief obviously needs office. I understand why Lieutenant does, because they're handling various people's secure files as well. And then of course we have a pretty large work area plus the reports office. How many officers do we generally have on duty at any given time?
Anywhere from 2 to 3, depending on the time of day and day of the week.
And the answer to this is probably just no, but I'll say it anyway to be dumb. Is there any shifts where the chief, lieutenant, or sergeant aren't there? Does that make sense? Is there always a chief, lieutenant, or sergeant on duty, or are there times when there's just officers?
There could be times when there's just officers, yes. Right now our sergeant works at 6P to 2A, so he touches second and third shift. But there are days when he has to cover third shift because of training or someone's sick or some other type of reason why there's no one here or an officer's off. So he would have to work that 10 to 6, 10P to 6A shift. So yeah, there could be times when the sergeant's not here and it's just officers.
And how often how often are there more than one officers in the building during an average shift? Or are you mostly out on the streets?
Mostly on the street.
Okay, because that's, I'm leading up to we have 3 workspaces down here, 2 offices that are and can be secured. I understand not necessarily wanting to walk someone through everything, but it looks to me, by the time you get to the administrative office desk and say, I need to file a report, somebody did something to my house, and the officer walks up to get you, it doesn't look like it's that intrusive a walk to walk down and sit down at one of those open office spaces, or if it's something a little more sensitive, use the chief's or lieutenant's office, and then walk them back out, because it looks like it's a hallway and then the stairwell. Or even if there was a buzzer on the back door down there where the work area is, someone could buzz and whoever was on duty could come to the door and say, can I help you? And they could be buzzed in and say, yeah, I need to file a report. Someone stole my kid's bike. And to me, it just seems like a lot. I'm sorry, Diane?
I'm sorry, it's not accessible. There's stairs.
There's an accessibility issue.
Gotcha. And this back door is not going to have wheelchair accessible either.
Well, it would be really not a good thing for it's just not a good thing for a resident to be going into anywhere near the processing area, because you never know. So it's
I would say you do know, 'cause
generally not done. It's generally the people have to come. The police really have no formal entrance, and so people have got to come through the main door during business hours, and they have to be checked in.
Which is, I assume, what we do now.
Well, right, yeah, because I don't know that the chief has anybody wandering back to the police area, but they might if the offices up front are closed. I don't know how good a job we do at.
Well, as I said, not wandering back, I assumed you would check in at the front desk.
Right.
And either way, there's not going to be an officer up in that area at any time, just waiting for someone.
They're going to check in with the clerk.
And then the clerk's going to call down to the police and someone's going to walk up.
Right.
I was just saying then someone could be walked down.
Or we'll drive in, park, and walk through the front door.
Yeah. And then, you don't want it near processing, but you'll know if you have someone there and say, well, we can't take you down and take your report right now. How about we meet in this conference room for those times that someone is trying to file a report at the same time that we have someone being processed. I just think there's more than enough room for taking reports without the added reports office. Because I'm, just fighting for my family restroom.
Well,
So
I think you could have the family restroom. I don't think anyone has been so far opposed to taking the two restrooms that are by the lobby and turning them into 2 family restrooms.
Right.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
2, or I would suspect you could even make 4 family restrooms out of that space.
It's 2021. Let's have some gender neutral bathrooms,
Yeah. 4, commode, sink, changing table, bathrooms. I think that would fit in that space and still leave room for the processing room as it is.
I would agree.
I mean, that was my big concern is, there's just like 6 workspaces for, the 10-person office. Seemed
Sure.
like we scrunch some of it down a bit, or even take the giant workspace here where you have the 2 desks, plus the third desk, plus extra space, and maybe,
Yeah.
you know, if you squeeze some of that over, you squeeze one of these outside rooms in there, and that's just a few less square footage of build space.
The difficulty that I would foresee in that is that you have to plan for maximum capacity, right? Not minimum capacity, because you can't operate unsafely when they do in fact need all three butts in those seats. There will be a time when that comes up, and if there aren't the three workspaces there, then what do they do?
I'm not sure that that time would ever come up.
Oof.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you've rolled enough dice. I think you've rolled enough dice to know that 100 comes up on a D100 every now and again.
Yeah, but I mean, we could ask Chief if there's ever been a time that he needed four officers working at desks. At the
Well,
same
not four, just those front three, because the other two would be locked and controlled by their constituent
Yeah,
officer.
but I'm assuming that if something that bad's happening and Chief's not there, I would want to know why.
You know,
So there could be times, I mean, it would take nothing but a tornado to come through this village and everybody would be here. So, yeah, it's, Council President Wolf's right. You got to plan for the future. That space can be reappropriated if we need it to be. If we don't need three workstations, we can obviously, create something else in that space. But the idea is to think 10, 15 years into the future. We don't know what would happen. We may need storage space. I don't know.
I agree that pushing ever smaller will only mean that it probably won't meet our needs by the time it's done.
Yeah.
Right. I think we've all seen road projects where they've built the road to the spec at the time it was designed, took them 10 years to build it, and by the time it's done, it's already full of cars because they built it to 10 years ago spec and not looking far enough ahead. I think
Yeah,
if we
with us, I think we can pretty assuredly say there's not going to be any new homes or area to patrol in the village, and that we're not going to, balloon up to a 20-person police force.
That's never gonna happen. You're right, Mark.
Because I think we have every scrap of space used we can, unless we get rid of the basketball court and put it in an apartment building.
While I agree that more homes isn't the case, I couldn't foresee that there wouldn't be a time where we would say that we need more patrolling. Right? I that would be foolhardy to say that. I couldn't imagine a scenario where, the consensus of the village was that we wanted more police presence here.
Yeah, but that's police in cars, not police at desks.
But police and cars need a place to go when they've nabbed the bad guy.
Or the bad girl. We're
Or,
equal
yeah,
up
pardon
here.
me, yes, gender inclusive, when they have nabbed the bad person.
All right, well, those are my concerns.
All right, then does anybody else have concerns to address with Chief Delp? Going once, going twice. With that said, I think Chief Delp, I don't need you to go, but you're welcome to hang out, but I think you probably have better uses of your time.
Thank you, but as it stands right now, I'm the one
Oh, that's right. You're the one
recording this,
recording, so you're
I'm just
stuck
gonna
with
mute
us.
my microphone and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
There you go.
Thank
All
you for
right.
your time, sir. Thanks for clearing some stuff up.
Absolutely, and maybe it'll wrap around to police space again. Who knows? Okay, so what were the other concerns that we wanted to address? The only other one that I have recollection of was that Tony was talking about sort of flipping the floor plan to have the police on the other side of the building.
That's the big one for me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for you guys, I can take a look at a blueprint and a plan and look at how difficult it is to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish here. And when I said that this is the worst plan so far, I think it is the worst plan so far with regards to working with the building that you have. And, like I said, the first problem I have and the other plans that I had seen had the police on the other side of the building. And I see the police department being pushed out closer and closer to the lake, the part of the property that is being used by the community the most. And, like was mentioned, is that here we got the main processing room where we're going to be bringing in criminals. And it's right there beside the lake where people are fishing and, trying to have a cookout or whatever. So putting, guys, I can go on and on about what I don't like about this drawing, and that it is so difficult. If you're going to put bathrooms in an existing concrete floor, first off, I don't know how they're going to be able to get the drains from those toilets to the existing plumbing in the existing building, or they're going to have to put a whole new connection to the sewer line out to the street. I look at a set of steps that going down to the the garage area, the police area. For some reason, he has that being moved. Just, he wants to move the door there for some reason, because the door is in the opposite position than it appears on the drawing. And then he wants to cover up the steps going down to the basement, not use any of the basement except for some maybe future use or some storage, and cover up that step, and then put another set of steps outside. So the only way you can get to the basement is through the outside. I mean,
The idea about the toilets is a really good idea. I never thought of that, because those bathrooms are going to be in the old ambulance bay. That's a really good
right,
idea,
and
Tony.
you have to saw cut all the concrete to the toilet, to the showers. All of that work, is over and above. It's just much harder to install plumbing into an existing concrete floor.
Now, did that old ambulance bay have a drain pipe going through it?
It's a sink. There's a sink, and a sink you can make, and it does. It makes the drop over to because the problem in the building, the existing building, is that the line going out to the street is 4 feet off of the basement floor. And if you look at the garage is like 4 feet down below the floor. It's half a floor down. So there is enough slope to the drain to get a sink to the existing, but to get a floor drain with toilets and showers, I don't see how you can do it without putting in a whole new sewer line. So my opinion of this drawing is that there wasn't very much thought into trying to work with what you have. And to me, it's like making it as difficult as possible. Up in the records room, you're gonna have to, I don't know whether he knows this, but that whole building is concrete block walls and a concrete floor. It's not wood, and he's got saw cutting out a whole wall in the corner. You're going to have to do some saw cutting. There's no way around cutting into the concrete block, but in some areas. But like I said, this plan, it's like they didn't really care too much. The only thing that he has going for him is he did put 2 bathrooms where the existing plumbing's at. Other than that, there wasn't a lot of consideration into how difficult it's going to be to build this. And why we have a storage room. I understand he needed it, to block off the steps and put the steps outside to the basement in order to get this to work. But to me, this could have been done a whole lot differently. It just doesn't make.
Well, I don't know that anybody would say that it couldn't be done differently, because you can do anything differently. I personally find it hard to believe that the architects are unaware of the materials and the building processes necessary to execute on this, though.
See, here's the thing, and this is, maybe I'm showing my bias towards architects, and they're right up there with lawyers and used car salesmen, and that their concerns about how easy it is to do something, that's like found at the bottom of the list, for a project like this. But you guys, I'm just one person here. Everybody thinks this is great, and let's go and see how this works out.
Well,
I'm so tired of fighting because I've got other battles to fight other than this.
It sounds like we have Tony's approval then at this point.
No, you don't. I'll be voting no.
Oh, okay.
Whenever my chance to vote would be no.
Fair enough. All right. Does anybody else have any concerns that they wanted to speak to? And I think
is anybody receptive to moving? The one thing that is moving the darn police away from the lake. I mean, that's and the parking lot on the front. The parking lot. I don't know what your guys' opinion of having a parking lot that backs out onto Minerva Lake Road. I think that's ridiculous. I'd like to see the parking lot up over beside the building and have some parking, a little bit more parking. And there's not going to be, and if we keep this, the way it's designed right now, we're moving the parking lot even further over towards the lake to add a couple more cars or a couple more spaces for police cars to park. That's why when I pull up to the community building, I'd like to see people enjoying the lakes and not the police department right there where the lakes are at. I mean, they're like 10, probably not even 10 feet from the lake is where the parking lot's at. I mean, it's just conceptually, that's what I probably hate the most about it. I can deal with all the, well, I can't, but with all the, how difficult it is to build this plan, but the overall concept of having the police where they're at and not on the other side of the building is my biggest gripe.
If I could just intercede for just a moment, the architects also factored in the consideration of some thinning of the vegetation, the honeysuckle, that kind of stuff on the side where the community half is. In addition to that, deck. I may be the only one thinking this, but I think that has the potential to be a very nice view. But again, that's just my opinion.
No, I think that'll be a great view. I think
But it'd be a better view if it were put closer to the lake.
in to address my one thought to Tony's suggestion to move the police to the other side, I believe that with the slope of the land over there, it may be substantively more grading. So I think that what we would need to weigh is the expense of moving land versus the whatever other savings and construction process there may be.
I don't know what you're referring to about grading issues.
If I may, there's more groundwork on that side, more earthwork. We can get the architect's opinion and get it back to council members on to which side. One of the reasons that we're on this side now is because we're trying to obviously be most efficient with the dollars of the village. This side was estimated to be least expensive as far as the work being done. Now we can get the official opinion email from the architect to kind of discuss his concerns, and we can certainly distribute that to council.
I think that would be a reasonable request.
Tony, if you give me and Chipper a couple hours with some saws for that honeysuckle, I can make you a nice view.
Well, I could make you a better view without doing anything if we moved it.
Well, I would like to say that I understand from the mayor also that this was of the different designs that was tried, this one was the least expensive. So in terms of dollars, as Eric mentioned, But I will say that in all of the original facility workshops we had, absolutely everyone wanted the community building on the side that is now the police. Absolutely everybody wanted that. And so, although I'm, as far as if we have consensus to move forward, then I'm going to vote to move forward. However, I just wanted to make that clear that there'll be a lot of people who might be not quite persuaded right now. They might be persuaded. I mean, I'm a gardener, so I'm with David on this. I mean, you can make a space. I mean, just because it's not the space that's always been there for the last 40, 50, 60 years, that doesn't mean that you can't make a new space and have that new view and that new space work out even better than you thought. So there's always a possibility there. But I guess I would have liked to see what the design was that flipped it, and that where the main problem is we're keeping the existing building because it's way more expensive to tear it down and start from scratch. And it's also more expensive because we're not starting on a field someplace, where there's absolutely no obstructions. So that's already adding to the expense of doing it. So we have a lot of challenges to keeping it where it is, which was another wish for everybody. So, but I don't know, I guess that's all I wanted to point out. The main challenge is that this is if this were a single story home or community building in the first place, it would be a hell of a lot more options. It's the damn stairs and the fact that it's staggered the way it is, two different ways, that make this space so hard to adapt. And I'm done now.
Okay. So do we, where are we now, and what else do we need to discuss? I think that the ultimate goal here was to get a comfort level that we could, as a council, let the administration know that we are comfortable with moving forward. Right now, it sounded like Mr. Fisher had suggested that we could get a letter from the architect with sort of a rough estimation of the cost difference of moving the police to the other side. I think that's a reasonable ask. Beyond that, we have in this conversation, we've talked through the police space. We've talked about adding a bathroom and sort of reworking that space so there was a bathroom near processing. We have talked about converting the bathrooms in the public area from a men's room and a women's room to family restrooms. Beyond that, is there anything anybody else needs to discuss before we are comfortable with directing the mayor to move forward?
Well, I'm a little confused on if we add the bathroom and shower in the police area, would we be removing the bathroom and showers and maybe making those locker rooms a little smaller and freeing up some space?
I think.
Or would this just be adding without taking anything? Because we're already, what, 4 million or 400,000 or so over our proposed budget?
So if I may, real quick, Mark. So we
Yeah.
obviously have to have the architect draw it up. Anything that's within the envelope, right, as you see in front of
Oh,
you.
yeah.
It's just a matter of finalizing the building design for bidding, right? What
Mhm.
the actual numbers are not completely known quantity. I can simply tell you
Yeah.
that, hey, if you remove more plumbing, it will save you, as plumbing is one of your most expensive per square foot costs of any construction, right? So if you're minimizing some area or you're combining them, probably it's at most a wash, right? And or minimally a wash, and most you're making some savings. So if the plumbing's already there, you're already paying for most of the cost to go to that spot, right?
Yeah.
So it's more reworking the actual design. And I would say, look, the biggest change for example, would be if there was a decision to go from one side, moving one side of the envelope to the other side, in which you have more earthwork that comes in the cost. So I think that's a legitimate, like Brian was saying, a legitimate ask to kind of get an idea of what that might be. Is it 100,000, 50,000? The architect may simply be able to say, look, we know it's going to cost you more money, right? That's why I suggested over here. So I will get his opinion back to you on that. But anything as far as details of any of these areas, it has to be looked at by the architect. It has to be redrawn
Yeah.
before it's put out to bid anyways.
Of course, but no, my question was, and I don't believe and I could be wrong, are there facilities on that lower level? I think I once was down there. Are those facilities where we have the locker room, existing restroom facilities that have already been piped and plumbed and everything?
No,
There's
there's
a-
nothing.
I
Nothing
mean, that's
now.
where the police are now.
think
No, there's nothing.
There is
Okay,
not.
So that everything we do down here is new build.
well,
That's why I was thinking, do we consolidate some?
hold up. So if we're talking about the downstairs on the lower grade, on the east side of the stairs there, where the existing bay is, there is some plumbing down there. It is in the form of a sink. There is already plumbing. Now,
Mhm.
regardless of where we go on site, plumbing has to be redone to meet the current needs, right? It doesn't matter. You're going to have to redo stuff. So
Gotcha.
Where the current locker room is in the basement, and there's utilities are down there, but there's no bathroom.
pipes, no, there's
No.
not. But the pipes come
There's no
straight down from the
sink.
top. You're underneath. So there's no sink, but the pipes and everything are there. You can add things, right? It's much cheaper to add things than to cut in and make things. So if you wanted to add a restroom, you could, right? Because it's already there. It's different if you had a box, that was many feet away from where pipes were, and you had to redig pipes and add them in and plumb everything, right? It's different.
No, I was just curious because of Diane's suggestion and that Chief Delft seemed to like, if we're adding more down here, are we going to take some away? I guess would be my question. And I'm not quite sure what we decided on that.
I think we need to work it.
I don't think we decided how that would be. It's just that would work on it,
Okay.
proposing something.
And I do apologize. I thought we were speaking about the basement currently where the police are at.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought too.
Okay.
And there's nothing down there.
No, because I don't be like, well, okay, I'm kind of satisfied. Then say like, oh, here it is, and we added more stuff, and then it, I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to vote. It doesn't need too many people to vote yes for it to move forward.
Well, it needs 4, technically.
Yeah.
4 people.
4. All right. So to that regard, do we need anything else at this time other than the response from the architect that we've just asked Eric to get for us? Anyone? Okay, then Eric, do you have any idea of a time frame for that?
I will reach out tomorrow, sir, and hopefully I'll have it back to you pretty quick.
All right, then we will look for that. And once we have that, maybe another brief conversation, and then we know that we can move forward.
Work sessions this Saturday.
Yep, that's the plan. All right, then unless anybody else has something for this this meeting, I think we're done. Going once, going twice. Sold. Everybody have a wonderful night.
You guys as well.